Yippee!
Yippee!
Hello.
Oh,
Everyone
that's
in the
cute.
chat, give me a yippee! Heck yeah!
Yippee!
Yippee!
Yippee! It's
Yippee.
cute. We're at a
Yippee.
table.
We're at a
Oh,
table. We have our little microphones with a little table.
oh my
I love that your
god.
text is bigger, Lumi, where it says, "No, don't turn me into a marketable plushie."
Yeah.
It's so cute. Yippee! Ah,
Yippee!
welcome everyone. We are here for the final panel of the audio fiction convention here. We are ready to close y'all out with a super important topic, which is a lot to handle in an hour. So hopefully we'll be able to give y'all some good information. We are going to be talking about show running a fiction podcast today. So we are actually covering the A to Z, or Z for some of y'all, of show management. And just talking about what all that entails and everything. So I am y'all's host. My name is Rowan Odom. I am the founder and producer of Twin Strangers Productions, and I go by they, them pronouns. And I'm going to have each of our panelists go ahead and introduce themselves as well, our lovely, lovely panelists. Fio, I won't make you go first again this time. I did that to you yesterday. So, Motzie, do you want to lead us off?
Oh yes. Watch me get this wrong. My name is Motzie. Motzie Dapul. I create the podcast Hainai, which is a podcast about a Philippine immigrant who fights horrible horrors in Toronto. And my pronouns are she, her.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Motzie. Thank you for being here. All right, Lumi, you want to go ahead and go next?
Yeah, I am Lumi Oakes. I am the showrunner of Wanderer's Journal, and I use any pronouns.
Amazing. Perfect. And finally, Fio, once again, thank you for joining me.
Hello. Yes, my name is Fio. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm one of the co-creators of the Homeward Foundation, and I'm very happy to be here.
Awesome. Happy to have you. Happy to have you all. Thank y'all so much for joining me on this incredibly fun and kind of daunting topic. I'm sure y'all are all a little bit like, oh, that is a big thing to talk about. And me too. I'm right there with you. But don't worry, we'll take it in stride. As per usual with any of the panels, if y'all have any questions in the chat, feel free to drop them in the Twitch chat. I will go ahead and keep up with those. And if y'all want to save them for Q&A, that's totally fine. We'll have that portion at the end. But otherwise, we'll take those in stride and kind of answer those as we go along. So thank y'all so much for joining us. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So we have an amazing show of panelists today. I can't wait to talk about this. So I'm sure a huge question that everyone is probably going to think of is, as far as show running, where do you start? How do you even begin the process of show running a podcast? What are the ground steps that you need to take in order to start? What do you need to think about first? Lumi, do you want to start us off?
I can try that. Yeah, I don't know. It depends a lot on. I've seen a lot of different approaches in my short time here. But I mean, I think it's a very good idea to first of all, figure out what kind of show you want to make, and which is a big question, and then figure out what sort of skills you have and what things you might need help with is a good thing to assess very early on, to sort of figure out what type of allies you need on your little journey of making a show. And also just like establish small things, like whether you want it to be a sort of a volunteer show, whether you sort of want to go into the world of crowdfunding, or if you want to, like, there are a lot of little things about sort of how you want to run your show that it can be a good thing to establish relatively early.
Yeah, absolutely. So already starting with genre is obviously very important, trying to figure out what kind of story you want to actually make, who's going to be in that audience, and then how you even want to approach starting a show, right? Crowdfunding, or if you want to do it nonprofit, which a lot of us, I think, start off as. So, some great points being made there. Motzie, do you want to give us the second answer if you have anything to add?
Absolutely. Just make the dang thing. Is my
Yes.
Real.
yeah. It's like, you know, as far as like advice goes, it's always good to be prepared. It's always good to, know. But at some point, the most successful people in this space are the people who just kind of start and do and
Mm-hmm.
learn. And even if they stumble here and there, like we started our Patreon pretty early, which is a good idea, but it was like badly managed for a long time until we finally like we decided like we wanted to invite people to the Patreon. Like we didn't even invite people to the Patreon. That's how badly managed it was. but the good thing is that by that time when we started deciding to manage things better, we already had like I don't know, like 25 episodes. Like we had a good roster of episodes, and
Mm-hmm.
even if we weren't very good at marketing or like things like that, we had episodes, we had a show, and when people got into the show, they liked it. So making the dang thing is very important, and learning as you go is a valid strategy. And it can be overwhelming to prepare all of the things you need to prepare beforehand to be a very professional show, but to be an amateur show will still get you success as long
Mhm.
as you advocate for yourself, and you know that the show is cool, and convince others that it's cool, and then have a show to show them when you're like, check out our show. Because if you don't have anything to show them, then like, what's going on?
Absolutely. Yeah, just start the dang thing, right? Definitely some good points being made there. If you have something to show for it, you can show each other why you are in love with your project. And that's something that I think we all have a passion for here. So, very, very good points, Motzie. Fio, did you have anything to add to that?
I wouldn't say necessarily. I think Mottie's got a great point. It's just if you have the facility, if you have the skills to already make the thing, like make the thing.
Mm,
It's like people saying they want to be an author, but they haven't written if they want to make a book, they need to write the book for it to be a book. So it's that similar
mm-hmm.
process of like, you can have as many cool ideas, many cool concepts that you want to explore in the world, but unless you actually start making a thing, it's the same with Homewood. We could have just sat there and gone, we could do this, but instead we got our butts into gear and actually started like looking into it and seeing what we could do. And I think it's just really important to just start doing the thing. And again, with like amateur projects, if it's just an anthology series where it is just you narrating short stories, then that's not a bad thing, and you
Mm-hmm.
can learn on the go. Like it's this, and also this community is so welcoming and so passionate about
Totally.
storytelling. So
Mm-hmm.
like it's such an important thing to just make it, and if your audience want it, they will come find you. Absolutely will come find you. I can guarantee it.
Fio sounds like they've been tracked down by some people, and that's
Absolutely.
the kind of energy we need in the audio drama community.
I tracked him down. I went to his house now.
Motzie, how dare
There are
you?
pictures. There are pictures. There's
There are
evidence.
pictures. Yes, absolutely great points, Fio. It is a very small community, as we've said on, I'm sure, most of these panels. We love how much of an outreach there is, and, how people will give you advice if you are looking. And like everyone else has been saying, just start. See where you get, see how much passion you have for it, and you can't go wrong. So, very, very good start off to the topic at hand, guys. I think that's awesome. Okay, next question I have for y'all. This is kind of a multi part in that it's kind of all one question, but it's also just a lot of information to have. And a lot of things that people struggle with, I think, especially coming into the audio drama sphere, where not all of us are comfortable with bossing people around, quote unquote. So my next question is, what is delegating about? Can you start a podcast with just yourself? And who do you actually need on your team? And if you do have more than just yourself on your team, how do you even start to delegate to have people do what they can to help you out? Motzie, did you want to take us in for that topic?
Oh boy, I'm the worst one because I'm bad at delegating, but let's go.
This is a
I'm very
learning
bad at
process. It's
delegating.
okay.
Mhm. In my brain, because my name is on the show, I have to do most of the things. But
Mm,
in actuality, um, yeah, you can for sure like make a show on your own. That's not like that's feasible, but you
mhm.
have to like be very realistic about what you can do as a person. And I mean, like Harlan Guthrie apparently can record and post an episode in like one night. but um but all that being said, to delegate, you have to, yeah, understand like what your strengths are and what other people can sort of do, what their strengths are. Like I don't do all the editing for Hainai, and I know that I do that. Sorry, I delegate that because I know that if I had to sit down and do editing for Hainai, even if I know I can make a good product, it would take me about 6 to 8 business hours to get started, and I would spend the entire day like watching Elden Ring playthrough videos. So
Mm, real.
like I know that's my, that's my weakness. So I know to delegate editing, and I know how to delegate like like cutting things together, etc., etc. I do still
Mm-hmm.
do a lot of the things, so I think that I still need to learn that lesson. But um when you start delegating, you have to be willing to, take on that responsibility and see it through, because um sometimes when you're not available, you might have to cover for each other, but ultimately that's your job. And if you're not there to do that job, it's sort of like it falls onto your teammates. And that's kind of where the first issues start if you are a team.
Mm,
And the issues start when you overclock yourself if you are an individual. So you just
mm,
gotta like, and you gotta trust, you gotta trust. Like, that's the hardest thing to do when you are an artist or an author. You have such a specific vision, but you got to trust that the people around you know what they're doing, and they do. You wouldn't be working with them if they don't know what they're doing. So that's just
mm.
something that even I have to learn at this point, but I do have some amazing like editors as teammates.
Yeah, no, great points being made. Definitely trust is a huge part of delegation and making sure that if you are the creator, people are helping you with your vision. But as Matsu said, you wouldn't have them on your team if you didn't believe they could. So, very, very good points being made there. Fio, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I was gonna say trust is such a
Hmm.
massive part of this. I mean, Homewood started with myself and my partner Georgia, and we're writers, so we do not sound design. We are not actors. We're not social media managers. All the things that encompass show running a show. So we've got this idea and we wanted to make it. So we were just like, okay, we're gonna have to find people that we trust to help us. And that might be in the form of, you know, paying that person, or it might be in the form of a friend. Well, in our case, we did pay them because we were able to crowdfund, but let's say that's not the case. You
Hmm.
can, if you find a friend that has the similar talents to you and you want to make something together, you need to trust that person. You need to, collaborate with that person. I think a lot of Homewood has been collaboration. We've been able to, like our script editor, a wonderful woman called Kat Armitage. She has really helped us solidify exactly where we're going with Homewood and what we want to do. And every time
Mm,
we've had a discussion, I go away feeling like this is such a good project. I'm so happy to be on this project. And the same when we talk to our director, we talk to our sound designer, people understand, as long as you are communicative in what you want to that team, and that team can do what you need them to do, and you trust everyone. I think that's really, like, in terms of like a bigger production, I think that's definitely um all you really need is
hmm.
that trust. Same with the actors. Our actors are amazing, but they're professional voice actors who've been working as actors across like multiple different fields. But we've been very lucky in getting those actors. just through like communication and very much luck. So you know, we've been very lucky, and we are aware that we're very lucky, and we're hoping that you know, because we're doing well, that luck will continue. But if you are making things yourself, you know, don't be afraid to reach out to your friends, to reach out to people that you trust, who you think would be really good to work with. I mean, again, there is a very big difference between working with your friends and working with people that you trust sometimes when it comes to this sort of thing. Like you could have a best friend, but that best friend might not be the best person to work with. You may have very different sensibilities. So, you know, be mindful of why you're choosing that person to work with you on a project as well for that reason. Um, but yeah, I think that covers most things. Basically, disagree with Motzie absolutely 110%. So, but yes, yeah, there we go. There we have it.
Awesome. Great additions there, Fio. Definitely very much agree with the sometimes you can have best friends, but they aren't the best to work with, and that's totally fine. You don't have to have friends that all work together. Sometimes it's great to have allies. That's what I've always said. Allies over friends in business, right? But it's always lovely to have your friends on board if they are willing to help and willing to take your dreams and run with it. Lumi, did you want to add anything to that question?
I think the most important things have already been said, but I think it's very important to mention that when you set out to make an audio drama, there will always be more tasks than you imagine. I think there'll always be little things you didn't really think about or that you thought about very broadly. I find like maybe
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I can social media manage, but like that is a whole like there's a reason that's a whole job in a like really
That's so
professional.
true.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
all of us
This is correct.
all of a sudden you'll have all these different things to do that might be overwhelming because maybe you've only delegated tasks to like the most like broad things that you think you can do and I think it's very important to just know when you're getting overwhelmed so you can be like, okay, hey, could you just make this graphic for me because I don't have the energy right now. It's very good to find people who can help you do smaller tasks too, sometimes like little things that you don't realize will be overwhelming when it's on top of all the other things you have to do. And there'll always be someone out there who loves doing the thing you hate doing, I think.
Very good, very good. Yeah. Absolutely agreed with Lumi there. That is very, very much true. Sometimes it can be overwhelming to do just even one small minimal task that would be no big deal any other time, but because you have so much on your plate already, it's feels like the straw that broke the camel's back, you know? So always good to have some people on board who are willing to help with those smaller things if you need them. Great answers, guys. Very, very good job. And this kind of actually leads into our next question. Talked a little bit about what you kind of do in your productions and what you feel comfortable delegating. For new showrunners, people who are getting into the creative field and are trying to start an audio drama or any kind of show within our sphere, what are the hats that you wear in your production? And would you recommend doing the same to those new showrunners, or would you recommend having more people that they can trust? Lumi, do you want to start us off with that one?
I can try. I think there are definitely showrunners out there who do more than me, but when I sit down and really think about the hats I technically wear for the show, it does come out to quite a lot of them. I usually say in shorthand that I am the producer of Wanderer's Journal. I don't write the show, and I don't I do a lot of the things you can't hear, but it turns out that's actually quite a few things. I produce it, I direct it, I also do budget and payment stuff. I also manage the social media largely, except the Instagram, and I update the website and to send emails, keep track of files, communications, deadlines, schedules, all that sort of thing, which does come out to a lot of things when you really think about it. I think no, I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't. Again, be aware when you give yourself a hat. I think sometimes you give yourself a hat without noticing. And I think it can be a good idea to I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea to do all of the things. There are a lot of people in the space that do pretty much like everything in the show. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I do think you should be a little bit careful with it and understand when you're giving yourself several tasks that are usually a whole job on their own. Because sometimes you will feel really tired and you won't really realize why, and then you realize that maybe it's because you're wearing too many hats at once, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we were just talking about, those little things can really add up, whether you think it's social media or managing a website, even just responding to emails, anything like that can really add up to be a lot of different hats that you didn't really foresee wearing. So it's definitely good to be mindful about that. And as Lumi is saying, there's plenty of people who do all of that in the 80s sphere, but sometimes it's good to have that reach of support network that you can ask to assist you if you need to. Motzie, did you have anything to add on that?
Well, my thing to add on that is I am that person who does everything and I shouldn't. Basically, I do every job on Hainai. I just get assistance on some of them, but like I'm the creator, I'm the writer, I'm the director, I'm the social media manager. I do the emails. I talk to our network people. I handle like printing stickers, going to conventions. Just everything. I even do art when I want to relax. I do art and then I post it on the Hainai socials because that's still social media management. And I mean, it's good because it's kind of become my full-time job. I've mentioned before that I kind of like have not had a job in a year and a half because my industry has been very low. But so I've had the time to do this and it's been very fulfilling. But consider the fact that I could not have done this if I had a full-time job. Like this is something that you really need time to do. And when I had a full-time job, Hainai was posting. We were making episodes. We didn't really grow. Like we didn't really grow when I was employed. We were just like posting episodes, and we grew slowly but surely because that's it's inevitable when you have more and more episodes. But our biggest explosion of like popularity and success came late 2023, 2024, and that is what, like 90% of our growth or 80% of our growth came then because I could focus on doing it. It's a full-time job to be like, I call myself a showrunner, and that's basically like, and I'm doing showrunner things and doing marketing things. There's so much, and there are things that I want to do that I haven't been able to do. And the only job that I don't do, because I still do editing, I just do like the last half of it. The only job I don't do is transcripts. I just hand that off to someone else. But ultimately, that's a lot of things to do. And I love doing them because I love Hainai. It's my favorite thing. But if you don't see yourself being able to do all that, I don't recommend it. But my brain is kind of wired to do that sort of thing, and it like tickles my brain to have like these tasks. But ultimately, it's a lot, and I want people to understand that it's not just like making the show and posting the show. It truly is like a staggering amount of like hats that you have to wear, and I just want to be realistic about it. Even though I have fun with it, I love it. Like on a personal level, I enjoy doing what I do and I like doing it. But these are jobs. And if you want like 10 jobs, you got to be ready to do 10 jobs. That's 10 jobs in one, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of us, even just starting out, especially for new showrunners who are looking to start audio fiction, it's almost for sure you're either going to be in school, in college, or with a full-time job trying to support yourself and doing this at the same time. So that's when being that person who's wearing all those hats, as Motzie is saying, can be another full-time job. You're already putting in 40 hours a week in real life, and then you're doing it again for your show. And although it is a passion project for a lot of us, you can also still risk burnout. So I think it's really important to have that competence, like Lumi was saying, and the fact that you need to be aware of what hats you're wearing and how much you can handle, and you're not a failure for not being able to do every single thing on the show. That's what other people who support you are for. So, Fio, did you have anything to add on to that?
Just going to agree massively. I think the key with Homewood is so I'm the co-creator, so I'm the writer and the producer, but obviously wearing all the same hats as Motzie and Lumi have said. The difference is I am co-creator with Georgia Cook, who is my partner. So we can have that dialogue of because I work full time, so I work a
Mm.
9 to 5 job Monday to Friday. So my weekends and my evenings are spent looking at Homewood if I have the energy. But then Georgia has a lot more free time, so it does mean that I'll do a day of work and Georgia will be like, "This is what happened on Tumblr today." Like I will get like updates on certain things. She honestly is amazing. She deserves to produce properly somewhere else. She's so good. So she's wonderful. Yeah, it's gonna just be sappy about my girlfriend, but it is true. Like she wears so many hats, and obviously we job share. But we do equally when she's busy with other projects. I take on anything she needs. I'll write up a load of emails and she'll write up some emails. I'll send them off. I'll create the production schedules. We'll both look at the calendars for when our act is free. Here's when our writing deadlines are. Like it is a collaborative process for the two of us because
Mm-hmm.
we're able to share the hats, which is why that thing again, talking about delegation and trust. If you have someone in your life who also wants to make this project with you and you trust them, I would recommend having someone to share that load with so you don't have the burnout. Obviously, if you can, that's not a choice for everyone, but if it's something you can do, like I do highly recommend it because it does just mean then also it's not lonely because you like sitting with all these ideas and these stories, particularly as a writer, if you want to share all that, you can't share it until it's completed. So having someone as well to talk about your ideas with is also really exciting and really helpful. So yeah, but yeah, basically be aware of wearing all the hats.
Mm-hmm.
Delegate if you can. Um, don't burn yourself out. Like
Yeah.
take care of yourself. Hydrate. Have a
Hydrate.
day off sometimes.
Yeah.
Hydrate. Oh, I wanted to add something real quick, which is just I
Yeah, of
wanted to
course.
credit because at the beginning, although she's a bit more busy now, my co-creator Reg Helly is the reason I was able to like do so much even when I was full-time working.
Mm-hmm.
And I've mostly taken over the responsibilities for the last year because she's been busy, but because I haven't had a job, it's been fine. And another thing is I do have a friend, shout out to my friend Edward, who I basically tell the entire plot of High Night to, and then I like so we can sort of like go back and forth on the story, and that also helps a lot. Like having somebody to tell, like in programming it's a rubber duck, and in audio drama it's someone who will scream at your ideas,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
it's always a great thing to have. So like even if you could ostensibly do things alone, we recommend having a friend or having a partner or having
Mm.
someone who can help.
Can I also add to that?
Yeah, of course, Lumi. Go
I
ahead.
would just also like to say that absolutely having someone with you is life can be life saving. In this sense, I think the co-creator of Wonders Journal is also Wonders Journal also has a co-creator. It's Timothy Raphael who writes the show, and also just is also someone who I can easily delegate little invisible tasks to when I get overwhelmed and stuff like that. And he also helps me a whole bunch with. I'm also creating a different show on the side, and even though he's not credited as a creator there, he also he does a lot of things for it and is also very involved with that and there for me to talk about the story or like the things that I'm like stuck on and stuff like that. And I really think it's a very I would just also like to say that definitely if you have someone who can just like be by your side throughout it, it can be really nice because it does make it a less lonely process and it makes it a lot of things easier, I think.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree with y'all there. It can be lonely to be the sole creator in something and not be able to soundboard your ideas off of someone. And sometimes that's really vital to your project, not, you know, only having your own brain and your own ideas to sound off of, but having that reciprocal feeling and the reciprocal uh like communication between another partner or a friend who's helping you out with the project, another creative, anything like that, who you can tell your story to and be like, does this sound good? Does it make sense? What do you think about this? And I know same with Fio. Me and my partner co-create my podcast, and that has been a great deal of assistance to me. So definitely some great points being raised there. I do want to bring up the latter half of the question for y'all again. Do y'all recommend wearing the hats that you wear, or do you think people should delegate more? What do y'all think?
I think it's difficult because
Yeah.
it depends on how this was conceived, like the conception of it. If it is just you and the conceit is just one person doing a voice, you know, basically it really just depends on what it is you're making. If you're making
Mm.
like a saga with at least five characters, and you're not a sound designer yourself or whatever, you're gonna have to find at least five actors. That's already a casting director job. You've got to organize when they're going to be available or how they're recording, whether the scripts are written. Have you written them yet? Like, it really depends on a case by case basis. Like, is it a writer who's come to you as a producer? Then you are the producer role. That again, that changes everything. You are the creator, yes, but you're not the creative lead. It would be the writer, I suppose, depending on what they've written and if they've, so I think it really depends project to project. So whilst I wouldn't recommend to take every hat, it really just depends on what hats are on the table that need to be actually worn, and who's there to wear them. I think that's just the issue. And because everything about podcasting at the moment is so small and intimate in a good way, like it's a small industry in that sense. Finding someone who is willing to give up their time to work with you on your passion project
Mm.
is tricky unless they have stake in it themselves. So yeah, so it's really something to consider, I think.
And can I just say, Fio called me out specifically. You were like five actors in a overarching show with like,
I'm
Oh
so
my
sorry.
gosh.
hey, hey, where you have to wear too many hats, and that might not be a good idea. Hey, no,
We fear the
no, but
burnout for you, Motzie.
I was like, I got called out. Five actors. Hello. Anyway, um,
I'm so
but
sorry.
But I will
no,
also
that was
say
funny. I thought it was funny.
I will also say that if you're very involved in if you take just like a look in the audio dramas community, you would be surprised at how many people you can find who are willing to work with you very quickly.
Mm.
There are a lot of people who like who like doing these things, and sometimes if
Absolutely.
you're missing someone, you can usually find them if you ask in the right places.
Mm-hmm.
So you just I also again delegate when you can. It does depend a lot on the project. Don't be afraid to ask around. If you, it's you don't need to be like afraid to ask people to help you.
Mm. Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. There's no stupid questions, right? And just as in college or life, you don't have to be worried about feeling lesser because you can't do every hat. If you do have a larger project. We're not all Motzie, unfortunately.
It's
Uh
bad. It's not a good thing. I don't recommend it either. So you are actually better than me if you don't do this thing. So that's what you have to think about. You're not lesser, you're better. You have a better work-life balance.
See, hearing it from the creator herself, that's how you know. I do think everyone is in agreement. It's project based, but it's also there's just a lot that people don't expect. When you're creating a podcast, you have like we've already talked about with Fio, you have your casting director, you have your writer, you have like Lumi was saying, your social media, we have, you know, like Motzie is saying, you have several rounds of editing to go through. It's not something that a lot of people expect, and I think that's very valid, coming into the audio drama sphere where it's not very talked about, right? We don't know a lot of the processes of show running and how to get there to a final product and be able to market it as yourself. So I thought I had to sneeze. I don't, thank goodness. um but yes, some very great points being made there. Definitely, if it's just you talking in a microphone doing anthology, that's great. Lots of people have found success with that. But if you have a cast and you're willing to delegate, that can be some of the most powerful tools that you have in your arsenal. So, and yes, asking for help is something all of us need to get used to, I think, Astral. So,
Yeah.
yes. I know a lot of us
Amen.
have difficulty with it, difficulty with delegation, difficulty with asking for help, but you are not weak. As Motzie said, you're trying to be that person who's able to delegate and not burn out.
Yeah.
So
And I think
very
one more thing I want
inspirational
to add
things. Mm-hmm.
is just that role of money in this sort of situation, because it is very easy to delegate once you've paid someone to do something.
Oh
Like that's
yes.
the job is there. It's harder when you're not paying people, and
Yeah.
that's why it's such a difficult thing, because it's hard to ask people for help when you haven't paid them. So that's
Um,
always the most difficult part. And that's why I have a hard time delegating, because at this
Me
point, like
too.
it's like, the fact that there's no payment going out right now because it's not feasible is, I mean, there is, but like not to the extent that I would want, like
Mm.
paying for a job. And so that becomes more difficult. But yeah, so if you are able to raise money, that takes away a lot of the problems,
Yes,
that we
it
talked
does.
about. So that might be a way for you to move forward. And obviously that's this whole other problem, but that does like
Mm-hmm.
help a lot if you are able to do that. But if you're not, then this is where the discussion comes in.
Yeah, Fio, I would actually like to toss it back to you in regards to what Matsu was saying. I know you've had a successful crowdfund for your first season. So, do you find it easier to delegate now that you have the payments for your actors and everything, or are
oh
you just
yeah,
kind of on your
yeah.
partner
It's
and
so
you're
much.
like, yeah?
It is so much easier when you know you have roles to fill and you're paying that person uh,
Mm-hmm.
to do the role. When even when we were casting small roles, we were paying our voice actors for those roles. The same with our script editor. We paid our sensitivity reader.
Mm-hmm.
The really important stuff. The only things I think that aren't paid for are the things that George and I do as producers, as writers, and as social media managers, which is again enough on its own, to be honest, because we create all the
Yes.
graphics, we put it all out, but everyone else that we work with is paid. And that
Mm-hmm.
was sort of the point of the crowdfunder, was we knew that Homewood was something we couldn't make ourselves, and we wanted to make it with people we knew, but those people also have jobs that need to be paid for. They're all professionals in their fields. Sam Clemens, who's our director, and he also plays Arthur. He teaches, but he is primarily an audio director and a film director. He needs to be paid. He needs to be paid for his time. The same with our actors need to be paid for their time. Like, our sound designer is also our sound engineer. He needs to be paid for his time. Our script editor spends hours on our scripts. She needs to be paid for her time. Like, that's how we've taken this as a, well, if someone came to us and asked us to write a project, write something for something, we would want to be paid for our time. Everyone should be paid fairly. So that's why we were like, well, let's make the pilot on our own money. So the pilot was made off our own back. We paid for that with our cast and our crew ourselves, and
Mm-hmm.
then with the pilot, hopes to make the rest of the season. And we did. We did get the money, which was phenomenal, but it was not an easy ride. We did not
Mm-hmm.
know if we'd make it at all. And we told ourselves, like, okay, if we don't make the money, that's fine. It just means that it's going to take us a lot longer and we won't be able to work with those people. We'll have to find volunteers or we'll have to learn how to do things ourselves, or it will take much
Right.
longer for Homewood to be made. The luck of it is we were able to we are able to earn the money, which meant we were able to turn around to those people who, were paid less for our pilot to go, would you like to come back? We can pay you your rate. And they were like, we'd love to come back because you're paying us our
Mm-hmm.
rate and we like the project,
Mm-hmm.
So, it is difficult. It's not not easy, but our project is quite different to a passion project you're creating at home.
Mm-hmm.
I have to stress, whilst Homewood is a passion project for us, the intent behind Homewood was to make a professional audio drama because we've been writing professional audio dramas before Homewood. So it wasn't like it was. I think a little different situation perhaps than someone just starting out wanting to create something for themselves. So just
Mm-hmm.
just as to preface that, we did have a following for our work already within audio spaces, just not the independent podcast world. So we knew a lot of people who worked in audio drama, but in different avenues. So it was very different. Um, but that's not to say that you shouldn't pay anyone that you're delegating to either. But just to
Mm-hmm.
keep in mind that projects will look different. Every project looks different. Ours is a lot more costly because of who we're working with. That shouldn't change how you treat someone if you're able to pay them for their time or not. I hope that helps. Happy to expand where I can if that didn't make any sense.
No, absolutely. I think that made sense. Lumi, did you have anything to add or?
About payment. Well, I Wanderer's Journal is paid and has been from the beginning, but very modestly. It's not
Mm-hmm.
professionally paid by any means at all.
Right.
I think I do just want to say with delegation and with payment, I think the most important thing, whether you're like doing a volunteer project or a paid project or like a immodestly paid project, is to be very, very upfront when you ask for people's help about what
Mm-hmm.
project they're going into. I think it's just very important to state very upfront, like, this is what I can afford to pay, or this is like what the plan is if this happens or this happens, so this happens, or are you doing crowdfunding, that kind of thing. Is it a volunteer project? How much time are people expected to put into it? Whether it's like paid or not, it can be a very good idea, especially if you're like hiring specific positions. It's very important to be very open about what it is they're signing up for. Don't just jump scare them with tasks they didn't they didn't sign up for, and tasks you're not paying them for. And I also say that when you're involved with different audio dramas and you sort of maybe like voice act for an audio drama or you do something else for other audio dramas, you will sort of create a little network of people who might be willing to help you, just like as friends or in return for something you did for them once.
Mm.
Sometimes I've had help from people because I voice acted for them or I did something else for them, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I can do this thing for you because you did this thing for me for free, and then all of a sudden you can get help with tasks even if you can't afford to pay for them all the time. When we were crowdfunding Wanderer's Journal season 2, I got help with making graphics for every day because I wanted to post every day, but I don't like making graphics, and I also just didn't have the time to make that many graphics. So I got, Timothy Raphael did some, and then I also got help from Finch, who runs the podcast book club, also did some graphics for it, which was very nice. And that just, it took a big thing. It took a big weight off my back to just ask, like, hey, can I is there someone who might be able to help me with this? And then because like I'd been involved with other projects and done other things, all of a sudden, there were people ready to step in, and I just think that's very nice.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah. Once again, going back to the audio drama sphere being a smaller industry is very nice sometimes. Trading and bartering your skills and your resources can be very useful especially when you're just starting out. If you're like, well,
Yeah.
I don't have much experience, but I have these skills. Do you want. Oh no. I
Bless
knew
you.
it was coming. I couldn't
Bless you.
stop it. Thank you. Appreciate it. I have these skills and I have these experiences. Do you think I could help you out with something if I'm able to get some help on my project? So there's lots of people who are willing to trade, or there's lots of people who are just willing to volunteer to help you. That's why being a small community is so helpful. Also, thank you to everyone in the chat for blessing me.
You are super blessed.
I'm super blessed. I feel it. Yeah, some great points being made there. And as everyone has kind of pointed out, really depends on the type of show you're going for, the type of industry you're from, or what you're trying to create, but it doesn't always have to be funded. There's plenty of people who are willing to be volunteers, who are just wanting to work on a passion project with you. But if you can pay them, definitely makes delegation a lot easier. You can be like, I'm paying you for
Yeah.
this role. You're doing this role. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. It's way more of a business transaction than it is just asking a friend kind of vibe. So, some great points being made there, guys. Thank you very much. Let's go with that on the topic of kind of the hats and the recommendations of doing perhaps more delegating than some of us might have in the past. Are there any lessons that you wish someone would have told you when you were starting? Anything that like you just found out later and you really wish you might have known that at the beginning for new showrunners? Anything like that? Motzie, did you want to start us off with that one?
Oh, sure. That's an interesting question because when I think about all the lessons that I have learned, where at the in the moment I was like, I wish I'd known this sooner. I don't necessarily think I would have 1000% benefited from knowing it sooner. You know, like this is a it's a process. And I mean, obviously, there are things where we benefited from knowing things early, like a long time ago. I don't know who this was. It was an anon on Tumblr, and I will bless them forever because they told us in like episode 3 or something that Hainai had a weird high pitched sound that was happening on the episodes that made it sound weird. It was no, his first episode even. And I had been editing with my fancy schmancy, editor headphones. I did not know that there was a weird sound. And then I got $4 headphones from the dollar store. I listened to it. I heard the weird sound. And ever since then, I have edited with the $4 headphones because of the nature of Hainai being like, a low, like, analog style, whatever sound show. So I would have to listen on the lowest quality possible or like a semi low quality to know what would sound good. And it sounds good across all qualities. And so those are things like, things that would ruin your show, like not ruin your show, but, things that would like bother your listeners, I think is the first thing that you should definitely like know and, address. Like I think like the best sort of like especially like technical things, nothing like about personal taste, because personal taste is nothing, like you have to just keep going with your thing. But things that would be a problem throughout the entirety of the show, I think are valuable like lessons to learn very early. But the rest of it, like learning how to do Patreon properly or learning how to crowdfund or learning how to, do this and that. It's always good to know these things, but I feel like the journey is very valuable. You become better and better as you go on, and so nothing in specific makes me, wish that I had done things differently. And I think that just speaks to how satisfying the journey has been. And I think that people, I guess the one thing I would give as advice rather than anything else is trust the process. People say that all the time, but this is sort of where I frame it. It's like if you are learning things a little late, if you are not, if you don't know everything at the beginning, if there are things that, you could learn from other people, it's always going to be valuable the way you learn them and how it's going to happen. And I think that if you have the patience, like Hainai didn't grow to what it is until like 4 years later. So it's like sometimes it's not going to happen all at once, and that's a lesson that you only learn when you spend time and take time to get to the where you are. So that's basically like, sorry, I kind of went on a tangent there, but yeah, basically I'm just saying that I don't have any specific thing that I wish I'd learned earlier. It's more that it's valuable to continue learning as you go along.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I very much agree in the trial and error prospect of that. And as we've said since the beginning, just do the dang thing and you'll learn as you go. But sometimes we have those things that we learn on the way where it's very valuable to have that mistake happen. Lumi, did you have anything to add to that?
I mean, to get really practical and like small with it, I think sometimes people forget that because there are quite a lot of people who have done this sort of thing, there are actually a lot of really good resources available online on how to do the different things. And I think it's a very important, it's a very cool idea, good idea to take advantage of those things. When I was, when like we were starting with Wanderer's Journal, it was, I got a lot of help and knowledge from just like reading articles by Tal Minear online. There's some really good things there, and you know they're also you can also find, you know, like just radio drama is a really old art form, and you can find things on how they do that. But there are also, you know, with modern audio drama, there are a lot of resources. There are books on it, not that many, but there are, and there are people, and also, you know, there are a lot of spaces where there are a lot of really experienced people willing to answer your small questions, and there's nothing wrong with going in and asking those small questions when you have them. That's always nice. And also, just to repeat something that's been on this panel a few times, you know, yeah, it's okay to ask for help. I'm still scared of doing that sometimes, but it's not like no one's gonna kill you. It's fine. If you're there are people who might like your work, or people who might think your ideas are cool, or who might just like being around you, who are willing to help you do things. And that's, you know, yeah, ask for help when you need it, and go look for the resources that might answer some of your questions.
Absolutely, absolutely. Some great points being made there. Taking a look into research, seeing what other people have done regarding audio fictions or anything, and asking people for help. If you are unsure about things, there are people who will answer that. Astral, I do see your question in the chat. Let's take it to Fio for the remainder of this question, and then we'll get to that one. Fio, did you have any lessons that you wish someone would have told you when you were starting?
I think we've touched on it quite a lot already, but just how much work there is to do. There is. I think you can have an idea and a concept, and you can think, oh, this would be great, and I'll release it, you know, in a few months' time, not realizing just how much work there is to do to get to that point. So I think try to be realistic with your expectations is probably something. Obviously, what has already been said, I agree with entirely. There's so many links and resources out there. There are people all willing to bat for you if you just tell them what you're trying to do. Like we mentioned Tal already. Tal was amazing. I got to talk to a chap called Robert Valentine who helps with Wireless Theatre. A few people at Big Finish Productions who are producers were also really supportive. David K. Barnes as well, Wooden Overcoats. We sat with lots of people and they were able to give us some amazing advice, which is basically what we've been sharing today already, which is, you know, enjoy the process, make the thing. People are always going to offer to help you if you're, you know, be a nice person. Because if you're nice, people are going to want to help you more. Because you're especially like, you know, if you get arrogant about it and you're like, well, mine's going to be better, I'm not going to ask for any help, and you're going to cut yourself off a load of really wonderful talented people. So really just don't do that. Be, you know, be humble, know that you're new to the space, people will want to help you. um you know, we are a small community, we're an intimate community, and the fans love the people who love podcasts, they will come find you. Um, but yeah, I think just the only thing I would say, I do agree with the journey. But if you have like an idea in mind to have something at a certain time, be realistic of when that will be. So like
Mm.
Yeah.
in terms of like production schedules, you
Yeah.
know, like it's something we're you know looking at with Homeward. We have an idea of when we want Homeward to be out. Is it realistic? We think so, but this is our first time. So we are, you know, again, we are learning as we go, and it's such an
Mm-hmm.
enjoyable, exciting, creative process. But we don't know what that's going to look like in a in a few weeks' time, a few months' time. So yeah, so just be okay with things not going as according to plan,
Mm.
um, and just
Mm-hmm.
let yourself see how you go, see what happens. Let the river guide you. Uh, the river of audio fiction.
Valuable proverbs.
Yep.
I, I, I do want to add just two things very quickly.
Yeah,
One
of
is
course.
uh, good rule of thumb is that you should have your audio at -6 dB, approximately around that area, or perceived loudness of -16 LUFS. That's like I didn't answer that earlier because I already knew that, but I realized that it's information people might not know if they're first timing. So
Mm-hmm.
-6 dB
Absolutely.
is typical, but you can go above and below that. That's all.
No, that's perfect. Great
There we
to
go. Technical
hear some,
information.
yeah, some technical audio information.
No,
I
it's
love
an
it.
important thing. Yeah.
It's super
Mhm.
important. Being an editor myself, I would have wished someone would have told me that when I was first starting.
It's so funny.
So definitely agree with that. Very good points being made by everyone. Let's go ahead and take it to one of the questions in the chat, guys. Astral asked, how did you go about finding that help? So when you're looking for resources or when you're looking for people to ask, how do you go about finding those resources and those people? Do you have a network? Do you um, reach out on a particular social media? Did anyone want to tackle this one specifically?
Um, I think it was asked while I was talking.
Mm-hmm.
Try to
Yeah, Lumi,
answer
if you want to take
my
it in.
which is just there's a few Discord servers out there specifically for people who make audio drama. And also the book club also has a small creator server. There are spaces specifically with podcast creators and audio drama creators in there where there are a lot of people who have a lot of knowledge who can who are always ready to help. I have always gotten an answer to questions when I asked in those sorts of spaces, and that's
Mm-hmm.
also just and yeah, that's a nice place to ask. And yeah, if you have friends who are interested in just doing something with you, you can also just you know have those as your allies. But I think
Mm-hmm.
those are the only answers I have. I'm sure there are other people who have other answers, maybe.
No, that's a perfect starting point, Lumi. Thank you. Motzie, Fio, did y'all have anything to add as far as resources or places you can look for those resources?
Who wants to go
The
first?
unmute at the same time was hilarious. I
I was
just
just
gotta
like
know.
waiting. I was waiting to see who would talk. Um, Motzi, do you want to go? Because you've been in space longer than I have, so you might have better resources question
Oh,
provided.
I guess so, yeah. I'll say that I did not get into the space in terms of like the people around me. I mean, I had people who were like hyping High Nine and I would hype them in return, but I was never
Mm-hmm.
part of any like podcast audio drama groups, like, and Discord servers until like just last year.
Mm.
So, as far as resources goes, yeah, ask people, they will be lovely. I have literally asked Jonathan Sims to voice a character in our show, and he emailed me back saying he really, really wishes he could, but he was busy doing Slay the Princess that year. Correct
Oh,
decision.
yes.
Um, but
Great
yeah,
game.
like people in audio drama aren't as scary as you think. Like none of us are big time anything. We're not big time anything. So you
Mm-hmm.
can you can always ask, like you can send an email. Maybe if they don't respond, it might be that they missed it or if they're busy. But in general, people will respond to you because everyone's happy to share their knowledge. In terms of resources, freesound.org. Sign up
Mm.
for freesound.org. There are other like people have a lot of better ones, but this is the one I keep using because I don't need a super high quality audio. I just need really convincing ones.
Mm.
Um, uh, Another one would be um just sorry, I'm just trying to think, but that's basically like, yeah, know where you're gonna get your free audio, know where you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
get you can use free stuff. I still use Audacity, you know,
Yeah.
60 something episodes in. You have a lot of resources that already exist. You can use them, and also people will never shy away from your questions. People will always be supportive, and joining audio drama groups are all well and good, and you can always ask for advice and things. But I think, um, you know, just being able to be kind to each other and asking each other questions and offering help where you can, it's always going to be helpful. But try not to get too bogged down and try not to compare yourself too much to other audio dramas. It's not going to help.
Mm.
You just do your own thing, um, offer help where you can. But we are all doing our own journeys, so don't assume that you're not doing well just because other people seem to be doing well.
Mm. Yeah, very valuable things there. Fio, did you want to add to that?
No, not really. I think everyone said exactly what I was going to say.
He
But
agrees.
yeah, no, but yeah,
Perfect.
like generally, like what you were saying as well, like you can get all advice in the world, but the best advice is just to do it.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
it is just like, as what you said, do the thing. Like, do the thing.
Yeah.
Like, get a baseline understanding of what it is you're trying to do, then go try and do the thing. And if you get stuck, then reach out. If you're like, well, I don't know why this isn't working, or I don't know what I'm supposed to do from here, then reach out, because at least then
Mm-hmm.
you've started. You're doing the thing, and then you're able to kind of realize what you're attempting. So yeah,
Right.
but I think that's probably the only thing I'd add, really.
Yeah, super valuable, super valuable. Great answers, guys. I think we're putting out hopefully some good advice for the showrunners to be or people who are just starting audio fiction. So great, great information there. Great resources as well. Freesound.org, we love it. We love to see it. Definitely, definitely the best starting point for a lot of lowly editors as such
Yes.
myself.
And jazz, I mean, not open source, sorry, public domain songs. There are many of them,
Yeah.
many good ones.
Yes.
Everyone
Yes.
listens to jazz for some reason, and that's why, or classical music.
Classical music, yep. A lot of it's in public domain. I use a ton of it. So very, very good points there. Great job, guys. Okay. We're about an hour in. Let's go ahead and nail down one of our last questions, and then we're gonna take um the last question in the chat that I've seen. First with the last very specific question that I know a lot of showrunners struggle with, especially if they are the creator and or director, creative production person of the show. Um, in y'all's experience, if you have it, how do you direct your actors? And is there a way to be nice but also critical? A lot of people are worried about that. So, did anyone want to take us in with this first, or I will call upon you?
I can go
Yeah,
because we
go
just
ahead,
had a
Motzie.
recording and stuff. Um, I made the mistake earlier on to sort of like just kind of accept the takes. That's not the correct thing to do. That's bad. That's dumb. And there are a couple of takes in Hainai that I'm not very happy with early on. But thankfully, what you end up understanding is that you are doing the actors a disservice by not telling them exactly what you want. It makes their lives easier, makes your lives easier, and they're not gonna take offense. They really aren't, unless they have a big ego, which you're not working with them if they're kind of like terrible people. Um, they will not take offense to you giving specific directions because it wastes everyone's time less, and you know they are adults enough to understand that they may get it wrong because reading something is different from saying it out loud. And
Mm.
so I have very specific, I sort of like whenever there's a take, I stop them either at the end of the take or at the end of a sentence and be like, oh, could you say that again? But like, and then I give a very quick, and I have to be very quick with it because quick and clear instruction so that they can retake it on the spot very quickly and it's easier to edit around. um, you just have to know exactly what you want. Don't quibble. be unclear, don't be vague, because that's not going to help anyone. And that's how you be a good director. Like, know exactly what you want, say it quickly, say it as clear as you can, and make sure you're not wasting people's time. And, you know, they know you respect their work because you have asked them to be the actors. So it's not disrespectful to be like, okay, this is how I want it, actually, this is how I want it. Because they will also appreciate if they are unsure, because they will always be unsure. It's like not everyone can immediately tell what the tone is from just reading. So
Right.
yeah, it helps to be so fast, so clear, and yeah, just all that. And if it gets a little rowdy, which it did on our physical recording that we did, our first time physical recording a few weeks ago. It was super fun, but got a bit, we were kind of running time a little bit. So I was like, hey, everyone, here's the way I said it, which is just, I love all this discussion and silliness, but we only have the room for another hour. And just, yeah, like, I sincerely do wish we could talk for 3 hours. So just be sincere, quick, and okay, let's just get this done, and then we'll chat afterwards. That's it. Like, respectful but quick, and authoritative but kind and friendly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Getting quick to the point, but also making sure to be, honest. You're just there to help them. So, very good points made by Bati there. Fio, did you have anything to add there?
So I've never directed, but I've spent a lot of time within recordings.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly with Homeward, our director Sam has been really great. What we tend to do is, because we do live recording over clean feed, is how we've been recording with our actors. And what we tend to do is we do like one or two takes of the scene. And then, the director will just ask for pickups. He'll just be like, oh, okay, could you do this line one more time? And it doesn't make it sound like you've done anything wrong. It's just like, could you just do this a couple more times because I want a variety of how you've said the thing. Or he'll pick on like, oh, you swallowed a word, like we didn't quite hear that word and it's quite important to hear that word. Or could you emphasize this, like it's a very like business way. It's not supposed to be you've done this wrong. It's a, we just kind of need you to say it again, is that okay? And everyone's usually like, yeah, sure, no problem. It's just, and as Marty was saying, it's as long as you're like kind and polite, and usually at the end of every take he's just like, oh, that was great, can we do another one? We should just do another one just in case, because when it comes into the sound editing, the more takes you have, the better. And I think like we learned so much just watching recording in that way. um, but yeah, nice. Be nice, but clear and precise with what you need. Because that's something we definitely learned with the pilot. Even as like, even though we weren't directing, we were still doing the casting. And then we were getting async takes, and it was something that we had to learn for sure. So yeah, again, learning progress. It's the journey. Make the
It's the
damn thing.
journey.
Yeah, I do want to add
Yes.
one more thing, which is a very technical way of putting this, because some people might not know what's nice and what's clear and whatever. Um, when you do a take and something's wrong, say, "I like this. Can we do this one differently?" Like, say what was good as you say what needs to be changed, because like, and you can say it like in any tone, it'll still be kind. It's like, "I really like the way you did this take. Can we just do a retake on this line? I want it slower." Like, that's basically what it is. Compliment, or like, also to let them know you want them to repeat this tone rather than them changing the tone because they assume that you'd want it completely different. So you say like, "This is what you did right. This is something we need to redo." That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people in the chat are saying sandwich and others. I definitely go by the sandwich method of a compliment what you do like and then what you might want to fix and then be like, but you're doing a great job. That's usually what I do. And always helps. Lumi, did you have anything to add us on
Um,
that last point?
Again, I think the most important things have been said. Yeah, be concise. Maybe if you're live directing while people are doing their takes, in case you thing you wanna you forget about. And also, sometimes your actors will have cool interpretations, but you're not 100% sure if they work or not, and then you can just So you can just ask for another take, and then you can see how they work when you do the sound editing. You can just be clear about what you want. Give them little examples like, oh, do this as if you just cried but you're fine now, or something like that. I think was one I did for Wanderer's Journal one time. Yeah, and if you're not live directing, you can just you can also just, and you're getting asynchronous takes, you can also easily ask for retakes. If I've done a little bit of voice acting, not that much, but I would feel really bad if someone was too scared to ask me for a retake and they took a bad take that doesn't actually work in context. I would be like, oh, you could just have asked me. I would have done it. You know, like people don't generally get offended if you ask for a retake. It's usually not because they are a bad actor, and I don't think that many people are going to internalize it to mean that. Usually it's just like, oh, it would work better in context if you sound a little more angry here or something. There's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. Asking, very valuable. Just ask them. That's what they're there for. They're there for to help you make your vision come true, and actors are very receptive of that sort of thing. Great information there. Sort of following up with that, we do have a question in the chat from Adorable Door, which I know very well. They ask, live directing versus asynchronous recordings. What do y'all think is best? Do y'all have experience with both, and what do you like more? Fio, did you want to take us in?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was about to say if anyone else hasn't had experience, but I have very recently. So Homeward is mostly live remote recording with some async additions. So our main leads, Sean and Rebecca, who play Jeremy and Maddie, they do all of their stuff live recording, and then if we have people interacting with them in the scene, we then tend to invite them also into recording. And then because of the nature of Homeward, which is lots of found footage, so that can be phone calls or news reports, etc., they are done async. So I think, again, it really does matter in how like those people are interacting. I've got a feeling that our sound engineer much prefer, and our director much prefer live, just because they're on hand for the sound monitoring in terms of levels and things, and then they can also in the moment hear when a take needs to be changed because they're hearing it all together in one at the same time, and that really does help by our sound guy and our director at the time. But I also really enjoy getting the async recordings as well, and just being able to kind of like we can just slot those in to those scenes because they're separate, really, in a way to like the main recordings that are going on. So I think it works for us. I personally much prefer the live recordings as well, just as someone enjoying being part of the process. I get to finally hear the actors saying the words that we've written. So I really enjoy that, and I like hearing the interpretations and then trying different things like on the fly there and then. Where with async, obviously people then have to sit, like study their lines, then record it, then send it in. Then we need to give notes. If we require notes, then it goes away, then it comes back. So it's a lot more separate, and it takes a bit longer to get the takes you need. So I think that personally, that's where I sit on it. But yeah, I just really like being there for recording day. So much fun. But yeah, I think that's the consensus with most of our team as well, is they prefer to be there so they can bounce off their fellow actors as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Some valuable time being spent with actors together is always nice. And being there, if you're the creator, is super nice too. Lumi, did you have anything to add to that?
I tend to default to asynchronous recording, not because I prefer it necessarily, but because I feel less like I'm taking up a bunch of another person's time when I do asynchronous recordings. And I also it's also sometimes more concise to edit through because there won't be too many tangents. There can be tangents sometimes in live recordings, I think, and synchronous recording. But I do think there are some things you can get with synchronous live recording or like synchronous live or remote recordings that you won't get with asynchronous recordings. For Wanderer's Journal, we do sort of half and half. Janet, who plays Pluto, and Elizabeth, who plays a character called Creature, which is a creature that makes creature noises. They always record together, and that creates some really fun dynamics, because sometimes there'll be like an improvised creature noise somewhere, or there'll be like they'll be reacting to each other's like voice movements in some sort of way that you wouldn't really be able to get if it was asynchronous. But like I think but it does mean that the recordings the recording files are a little bit longer to sort through, because sometimes there'll be like conversation and directions in between, and it becomes can be a little more chaotic to edit through. But like that doesn't mean it's worse. It's just a thing to keep in mind.
I have a suggestion for that. Something that we do when we live record is we clap before a take.
Yeah. That's a good one. I've done that too sometimes, but sometimes I forget to do it.
Markers are great.
Very important. It's a very good thing to do, and also good to do. Sometimes people do it when they mess up. They do a little clicking noise or something. That's also in asynchronous, which is very nice and makes things easier.
Absolutely. Yeah, markers are great for editors and actors alike. I swear by them. Very, very good. Motzie, did you have anything to add, especially with you having your live session recently?
I would say that async is easier for editors and live sessions are more fun and better for actors. So like it really neither is better than the other. It's all, it depends on what you want to do or depends on what you're able to, because we were only able to have the live session for the first time since Hainai started 4 years ago. So, it's up to you. Async is also, I think, is easier to handle logistically. But if you're able to do live sessions, it's always like more rewarding. It is just depends on what your need is, and asyncs can make many great episodes. You don't need a live recording to make a good episode. It's just a fun little activity with friends, and it's always nice. The energy is always nice, but it is not feasible for many people. And yeah, like whichever you think is better, neither of them is better. It's just a matter of what your need is in the moment.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I just add to that? It
course.
definitely is like a need by need basis. Our actors requested live recording. So, I feel like because of that, the nature of Homewood did change. Like our leads wanted to be able to bounce off each other. And I think that's completely fair. That's what they requested as part of being part of Homewood. And so yes, that's why we do what we do. But as Motzie said, again, it's a project by project thing. And I don't think there are so many podcasts I've listened to that don't do live recording and they sound just as amazing, without, and some you wouldn't even know. So, which is the skill of the editors as well. So really don't think, oh, I can never do live recording. Live recording logistically is a mess. You have to make sure everyone's there in the same time zone. Oh no, you've got to get up at whatever time. So, if you can do it, great. But do not feel like that is the be and end all of recording. Please don't. Please, like, do not worry if you can only do async. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah, and also quickly add that Wanderer's Journal is by default an asynchronous project. The reason we have some synchronous remote recording sessions is specifically also because those voice actors requested it. I left the floor open, like, okay, if you want to do this scene if you and the other person in the scene wants to do this together, then I'm all for it. Or if you want me there to live direct you just generally, then then that's perfect. But just by default it was asynchronous because it felt like it was the most respectful to begin with of people's time a little bit, in case like I didn't want to. I pitched it like that in casting calls and stuff like that to make sure that people knew that it was the default, in case they wouldn't have time for live recordings.
Yeah. Seeing what your actors think is very important as well. And, you know, keeping the floor open door policy as far as wanting to know what people do best. So let's just really quickly cover Dratchet in the chat asked, is synchronous remote recording easier on editors than in-person recordings? We did cover that a little bit as far as asynchronous, but as far as synchronous remote recordings, do y'all think that's easier than in person? Motzie, I think you might be the person with experience here.
Synchronous remote recordings. I think it's about, well, for me it's about the same because since I'm the one directing every single call, you know, like I'm able to sort of like match the tone depending on the person. So it doesn't really like it, but it depends on their need. I think a synchronous not asynchronous, a synchronous remote recording is easiest for everyone logistically. But it it really depends on the need. Some people are just not are just busy on the day, or they are all able to do it at once. It is all case by case. None of them are easier necessarily. Maybe if it's synchronous, then if you clap, that's easier on the editor. But ultimately, the if it's all remote recording, the challenges will be the same. Just getting the files, putting it together, aligning it. I think it is just a matter of whether or not you can synchronize it based on like whether you clapped or not. That's really what it is.
Right.
But yeah, neither is the ease with. Other than that, I think the ease is about the same.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Lumi, did you have anything to add, or was that pretty
No,
much
I've
the
never
slice?
done. I've never done live sync.
Okay, perfect. I wasn't sure, so I just wanted to make sure. Great addition there, Motzie. All right, we have two more questions in the chat that we'll try to cover real quick. First one that we got from Pirate Kitten a while ago, love that, was how has being part of a network or creating a network helped you with show running? I know Motzie is on a network. Lumi or Fio, do y'all have network experience, or did you want to hand it to Motzie?
I don't have network experience.
Okay.
No network experience. I think it'd be lovely in the future because I think obviously depending on how well Homewood does, we'd like to, make other shows and create a network of our own. If it like as a future aspiration, but no, not actually any like network experience as such yet.
Absolutely. Motzie, did
Okay,
you want to add
well,
anything about networking?
sure, yes. Being on network, being on the Rusty Quill network, which is the network I'm part of, has benefited us. And I think the most important thing for people to remember is that you only join a network if you think they'll benefit you, because you're going to be giving something away. Not necessarily in the case of audio drama networks. Very rarely do they want your rights to your story. Very rarely do they even want to like interfere with your work, like as you do it. So that's a benefit to audio drama networks. You don't have to worry about them pulling some like big network like TV show network stuff. So that is a benefit. For us, we knew that our show would benefit from having the reach. We joke about how you're being paid in exposure, but in this case, we knew what numbers Rusty Quill draws in, and more than that, we had actually rejected a network offer before. And because we wanted to keep our independence. But when Rusty Quill approached us, we were like, this kind of works out because our show kind of matches the vibes of their show. We admire the people, admire the shows that are on that network. And we knew that we would benefit from the audience that was there. So I guess, like, yes, we did benefit, but it's not going to be the same for everyone. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you have a popular show, a show that is already very, very successful, you're doing well with the money, you're doing everything, and you do not see yourself benefiting from joining a network, then don't. If you're already doing great, like, you don't need that network. But if you believe that joining this network works for you as a show, as a creator, um, that is basically like, then do it. But you
Mm-hmm.
gotta, read the contract properly, negotiate if you have to. But the time between we were offered, it was like July, and then we officially got announced on the network in late September. So that was a few months because I was looking over the contract, and kind of like there were certain parts where I was like, can I get a clarification on this? Blah 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 blah. And so
Mm-hmm.
we had to be very careful. We were being very careful about our decision. But in the end, what we do get from the network is one, free marketing. They do ads for us. They put us on bigger shows, like as a exchange, or like as a feed drop. That has, boosted our numbers immensely. And also, the other thing that they get from us, and this is the exchange, is that we have a very even split on ad revenue. Now, Hainai was not
Mm-hmm.
making that much ad revenue, if any, before we joined the network. And they have a special ad setup. So we have been earning from ads, although they take a huge chunk, but that's what we agreed on. We knew what was going to happen going in. And
Mm-hmm.
so that is what they benefit from us. So as long as you are very, very clear on what they're getting from you, and you're very clear on what you're getting from them, then join the network. I'm very lucky to be in my position, but you gotta, yeah, just be realistic. Like, it's not like, even though, quote unquote, it's my dream network, quote unquote, as an animator, I have learned that there are no dream jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And if it starts not benefiting us anymore, then we're leaving. But at this time, it is a wonderfully like symbiotic relationship, and we do benefit from it. We're doing very well, and we have grown quite a bit because of this network thing. And so, you know, we're not gonna sing their praises if they don't deserve it. We're not gonna, put them down if they don't deserve it. We're just gonna be very professional about how we benefit and they benefit from us,
Absolutely.
if that
Absolutely.
helps.
Read
Yeah.
your contracts, people.
Yeah, read your contracts and look at their history too, right? Like, if they have a
Yup.
history of like mismanaging, like, and ask many people, because I did ask people who were part of the network before, and some of them were like, well, I had an issue with this, but I'm still with them. And some of them were like, I've had a great relationship with them. So you, like, ask
Mm-hmm.
people as well. Don't be afraid to go around asking people, because sometimes there's no perfect network, there's no perfect place. But if you do see that more people are benefiting, that's a good ratio. You're doing pretty well. You just got to be careful, but don't be scared. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Reach out if the opportunity is there, but don't be afraid to ask questions in the meantime and really go over that contract.
Yeah, and
Really,
don't be
really
afraid to
good.
like, don't be afraid, yeah, to ask questions, and don't be afraid to stop for a second and ask to look at the contract, because they're not
Yeah,
going to take it back. Like, unless you do something really terrible, they are asking for you for a reason. So you have power in this negotiation. You're not less powerful in this situation. So don't be afraid to ask and to negotiate.
absolutely. Absolutely. Great points being made there. Thank you, Motzi. All right, let's get to this last chat question and then we'll go ahead and have our outro for today. Thank you everyone for asking questions in the chat. We really appreciate it. Dark asks, any things that first time voice actors should not do when answering casting calls. If y'all have a pet peeve or anything as people who have put out casting calls, can you give us those in just a few words? That would be perfect. Lumi, did you want to start us off?
Um, make sure to read the instructions. People will, if you
Mm,
if there are instructions you don't follow. Generally speaking, whoever is casting might assume that there are other things you would have a hard time doing when you like that you would miss other things or not read things properly, which can sometimes deter people from casting you. In my experience, I think. Um,
yeah.
yeah, it's just I don't know. Read what the casting call says you should do, and then do the thing that the casting call says you should do, and then you're probably fine. Yeah.
Absolutely. Read the instructions, people. We love to hear it. All right, Fio, did you have something in just a few words? Pet peeve or anything?
I was just going to say, yeah, follow the brief. If the brief is asking for something that you are not, maybe you shouldn't apply for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if they're looking for a certain voice print that you don't have, if they're looking for an
Yeah.
age that you are not, it's again, follow the instructions. Like, be mindful. Look out for casting calls that suit you, because it'll be much easier to get into that, I think, than trying to be something you're not, especially if you're starting out. Um, because then, when you do apply, you are going to be on that list of people who fit the criteria that that casting director producer is looking for, and it'd be
Mm-hmm.
much easier to get put into that short list of they follow the instructions because that is actually something that people don't do.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, that's
Shockingly,
really it.
right?
Yeah, follow
Yes,
the
great answer.
instructions.
Yes, yes. Follow instructions. Everyone's saying it. Do it. Matsu, did you have a pet peeve or anything in a few words?
This got brought up in our mythology live stream a week ago, which is one of the pet peeves of our British and other European showrunners was that people like when they were asking for lived experiences of certain places like the Welsh, like lived experiences of Welsh people and lived experience of Irish people, there were Americans who had Irish heritage and Welsh
Oh
heritage, but no
no!
lived experience applying. And it was like, and they
Mm-hmm.
Oh
were ranting
god!
about how like that's so like that is not what we're asking for. So if there
Mm-hmm.
is a casting call that asks for like something specific, like someone who has lived or is of this, this and that, and is of this, don't try to do get on a technicality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not for you. If you are like 1/4 1/5 this, but you don't have like any lived experience that they would ask for in these sort of very specific casting calls, don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's so
That's a
funny.
very specific example. But yeah, it's like, and like obviously if it's just preferable this and that, then that's fine. Like you can still try. But
Mm-hmm.
if it's specifically like we need someone who has this sort of background, and you don't fit that background, then just don't do it.
Yeah, yeah, and we
That's
see that
all.
with a lot of casting calls for people of color, right? Where, they're looking for African American or, Hispanic heritage, anything like that, and it's not being followed. So very much agreed there. We love
Yeah,
having
very much that.
diversity, and there's a reason that the casting directors are asking for that kind of thing.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, and there are many places you can look. Like if that one doesn't fit
mhm.
you, look for all the places that you would think. Look for video places where they would post video game voice acting, um, uh, audio drama voice acting. If you're a first timer, small projects will help, and try not to expect payment on the first go. Even though obviously it's important to be paid at some point, but if you have to form at least a portfolio before
Mhm.
you can start getting the big gigs. And sometimes you can get paid on your first job, but it won't always happen. And having a very good show or game under your belt will get you those paid jobs. Just don't do unpaid every
Absolutely.
single time
Yeah, yeah.
unless you want to.
Volunteering is
I don't
nice
know.
to get into it, but afterwards, if you have a resume, definitely want to look for those paid
Mhm.
positions too.
Yeah, unless you have all the money and you want to do unpaid jobs, in which case, I won't stop you.
In which
That's a
case,
pretty
go
ideal
for
situation
it.
to be in.
Go for
Yeah.
it, bro. You got it.
Yeah, they need you.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you for those answers, guys. Great points being made there. Very, very good job. So I think that's all the audience questions we have, and that's all the questions I have for our lovely panelists today. Before I take us out, let's go ahead and have each of our panelists once again say who they are and plug their social medias so we can go follow them on their lovely platforms and their shows. So, Motzi, did you want to start us off?
Well, thank you. So I'm Motzie Dapul. I'm the creator of the Hi Nai podcast about a Filipino immigrant named Mary Datuin who lives in Toronto and deals with supernatural cases because she grew up with them. And we are very queer and very dark and very loving. And you can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. Hi Nai Podcast, HI, and then NAY. And we are on socials. We are on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, and also YouTube at Hi Nai Pod and Twitch at Hinaypod, HINAYPOD. And yeah, give us a listen. We're coming back tonight, in fact, at 9 p.m. on our YouTube channel. Come
Yippee!
back. Yippee.
Heck yeah, let's go. Thank you, Motzie. We love to see it. Make sure to follow Hainai and Motzie all around. Amazing work. Lumi, did you want to give us your plugs?
Yeah. Check out Wanderer's Journal. A really lovely team, really lovely writer behind it. You can find information about it at wanderousjournal.info on the website, or on our social media at Wanderers Journal Pod or at Wanderjourn Pod. It is a fantasy story, kind of cozy, mysterious sort of thing about two people who find a magical journal that they can communicate with each other through. It is queer. It is something to listen to while going on walks, but it's also it does have a few stakes. Yeah, I really recommend it. I'm also currently in the process of creating a show called the Mechadova Engine, which I'm excited for. But there's not much on there. You can check out mechadovapod.com if you want to know more about that.
Ooh, new projects. Yippee. And obviously, the Wanderer's Journal has a character just called Creature. Why wouldn't you want to follow
has a character
that?
called Creature, and it's the best character. I think it won like a character pull. I think, or maybe on our personal.
As it should. Best creature. Thank you, Lumi, for that. All right, Fio, do you want to lead us out with your plugs?
Yeah, hi guys. As I've mentioned, I'm Fio Trethewey. You can find me on Facebook, Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. And I am the co-creator and producer of the Homeward Foundation. You can find the Homeward Foundation again on Tumblr, Facebook, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok. There's just so many to count, but I'll post the link trees in the chat in a second. To give you an idea of what Homewood is, Homewood is a horror found footage fiction podcast, which is two people rushing around the Yorkshire moors carrying Dracula's severed head. It is a modern day sequel to Dracula. So if you're into that sort of thing, hopefully you would also like us. You can currently listen to the pilot at the moment, and again, I'll put it on the put the link tree in the chat so you can go find it. But we are very active on Tumblr, so please come find us on Tumblr. And yeah, we'd love to interact with some lovely new people. And thank you so much for having us all here today, chatting about our work. It's been great.
This was amazing, yeah. And I'm sorry if this is bad form, but I want to just quickly shout out some High Nai fans are doing a High Nai fan work week this week, which is amazing, stunning.
Oh,
I'm so
absolutely.
happy. Everyone's been lovely. But yeah, thank you for having us. This is amazing.
Sounds amazing. Can't wait to see all of the fan works. Yippee. Yes, if all of my lovely panelists would post your links in the contract of the Podcast Book Club Discord, that would be amazing. And you'll already see them in the Twitch chat, even better. So yeah, thank you to all of my panelists for coming here. Once again, my name is Rowan Odom. Thank you so much for letting me host y'all. And you can find me at Twin Strangers P on just about any social media, and also at Syntax Pod, which is my most infamous show, I suppose, which is sci-fi horror. So thank y'all so much for having us. Thank y'all so much for listening. Don't forget to check out the closing ceremony for the audio fiction convention today. And yeah, thank y'all so much for being here.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yippee! Bye, everyone!
Yippee.
Bye.